When my son told me to get a job, I didn't argue. I just smiled. His words echoed in my mind long after he'd walked out the door. If you don't want to go to the nursing home, get a job. I never imagined I'd hear that from my own child. The same boy I raised alone after his father died. The same boy whose dreams I had worked my fingers to the bone to support. But life has a way of circling back, and sometimes it teaches you that love and gratitude don't always grow in the same soil. It was a cold spring morning in Ohio. I was sitting on the old porch, a blanket around my shoulders, sipping weak coffee. My hands trembled a bit, not because of age, but because of exhaustion. I had spent another sleepless night trying to figure out how to stretch the few dollars I had left in my pension check. Ever since my husband passed away 10 years ago, I'd been living in the same little house. It wasn't much, but it was home. The flowers I planted bloomed faithfully every spring. The same roses my husband used to water every evening. Every wall held a memory. Every creak in the floor whispered a story. When my son, Daniel, and his wife Claire came to visit last month, I thought maybe they just wanted to check on me. I was wrong. They sat me down like a pair of social workers and said, "Mom, we've been talking. You can't live alone anymore. You're 70, and it's not safe." I smiled gently, trying to ease the tension. "I'm still capable, dear. I can take care of myself." But Claire had already made up her mind. "Daniel's right. It's time for you to think about moving into assisted living." I felt the blood drain from my face. "A nursing home?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, Mom. It's for your own good." I looked at my son, the same boy who used to run to me with scraped knees and tearful eyes. Now, his eyes were cold, practical, distant. "I can't afford that," I whispered. "You'll sell the house," Claire said quickly. "That'll cover the cost." I didn't answer. I just nodded politely and said, "I'll think about it." That night, I cried silently into my pillow. The house was quiet, except for the ticking of the clock. A clock my husband had fixed with his own hands years ago. Every tick felt like a countdown to the day I'd lose everything I loved. The next morning, Daniel came again, frustrated that I hadn't agreed. "Mom, we're trying to help you. If you don't want to go to the nursing home, then get a job. Show us you can still handle yourself." A job. At 70, I smiled, not out of sarcasm but because something in me woke up. Maybe I couldn't stop time, but I could still choose how I lived. So I put on my old coat, grabbed my purse, and walked out the door. For the first time in years, I felt a strange mix of fear and freedom. I walked through the town, looking at all the help-wanted signs. Most people smiled kindly at me but politely said, "Sorry, ma'am, we're looking for someone younger." By afternoon, I was tired and ready to head home. Then, as I waited to cross the street, a car pulled up beside me. It was a bright red sedan, window rolled down. A woman about my age leaned out and said, "You look like you could use a ride." I smiled. "Just heading home, dear." She looked at me thoughtfully. "You live around here?" We talked for a bit. Her name was Martha. She owned a small local bakery a few miles away. As we spoke, I mentioned I was looking for work. She studied me for a moment, then said, "I could use someone who knows how to handle customers with patience. Young people these days don't last long in my shop. Come by tomorrow. We'll talk." That's how it started. The next day, I took the bus to her bakery. Sweet crumbs. The place smelled like heaven. Warm bread, cinnamon, butter, sugar, all mixed into something comforting. Martha smiled when she saw me. "You're early. That's a good sign." She handed me an apron and said, "Let's see what you can do." At first, my hands shook when I worked the cash register, but by lunchtime, it all came back to me. The smiles, the small talk, the rhythm of people coming and going. It reminded me of my younger days, working in a diner to help pay for Daniel's school supplies. When I got my first paycheck, a small envelope with a few crisp bills, I cried in the bathroom, not because of the money, but because someone finally saw value in me again. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. The bakery became my second home. People came not just for the pastries but to chat, to smile, to hear my silly stories. Martha used to joke, "You're my secret ingredient, Grace." One day, a young man walked in with a tired look on his face. I offered him a muffin and said, "You look like you need something sweet and someone to listen." He smiled weakly, and we talked for a while. Turns out, he was struggling with loneliness. When he left, he said, "You remind me of my grandmother. I think I'll visit her today." That moment, I realized something. I may have lost my family's attention, but maybe I was meant to give comfort elsewhere. Months later, I bought myself a little used car with my savings. A blue Honda. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. Martha laughed when she saw it. Look at you, Miss Independent. Life was quiet but good. Then one afternoon, as I was closing the bakery, a familiar car pulled up outside. It was Daniel. He stepped out, looking shocked to see me behind the counter. Mom, I smiled. Hello, dear. What brings you here? He looked around, clearly uncomfortable. I heard you got a job. I didn't believe it until Claire showed me the post. Martha posted a photo of you on Facebook. I chuckled softly. Seems like Facebook likes to deliver big news to both of us. He lowered his head. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't mean to sound cruel before. I didn't know how else to help. I nodded. I know, you were worried. But don't ever think age makes someone useless. He looked at me for a long time, eyes glistening. You look happy. I am. After that day, things slowly changed. Daniel started visiting again, not out of guilt, but out of genuine love. Sometimes he'd bring my granddaughter to the bakery. She'd sit on the counter eating cookies while I told her stories about when her dad was small. One evening, Martha announced she was retiring. Grace, she said, I want you to take over the shop. You've given it heart. I was speechless. Martha, I can't. She smiled. Yes, you can. You've already done the hard part. You brought life back to this place. So I bought sweet crumbs with my savings and a small loan. My name went up on the window, Grace's Bakery, and every morning, I arrive before sunrise, unlock the door, and start the ovens. The smell of fresh bread fills the air, and I think of my husband, of all the mornings I thought I'd never smile again. Sometimes, Daniel stops by before work. He helps me unload flour bags and jokes. Looks like Mom doesn't need a nursing home after all. I laugh. No, dear, I built one right here, filled with warmth, love, and cinnamon rolls. Now, when people ask my age, I smile and say, old enough to know that peace doesn't come from what you have, it comes from who you become. Because the truth is, being told I was too old, too weak, too fragile, it didn't break me, it freed me, it pushed me to find a version of myself that even I had forgotten. The woman who raised a child alone, the woman who built a life from scraps, the woman who could still stand tall when the world said, sit down, bots me dot. So when my son told me, if you don't want to go to the nursing home, get a job, I smiled. Because deep down, I already knew I didn't need saving, I just needed to remember who I was. And as I lock up the bakery every night, the sunset glowing through the window, I whisper a quiet thank you, not to my son, not to anyone else, but to life itself, for reminding me that sometimes being underestimated is the best gift you can receive, because it gives you one more chance to rise.